satu instrumen filantropi Islam, yaitu Waqf, dan yang lagi in sekarang yaitu coronavirus disease atau COVID-19. Mungkin kita sudah tidak asing lagi, dan memang di Indonesia sendiri sudah mencapai 10.000 kasus. Nah, bagaimana kiranya instrumen wakaf tersebut dapat menjadikan sebuah solusi atau menjadi sebuah solusi terkait perekonomian yang ada di dunia? Berhubung bahwa yang kita tahu bahwa wakaf adalah salah satu instrumen yang dapat dikatakan cukup lunak dan dapat digunakan untuk apa saja. Dan itu sebuah catatan yang menarik jika teman-teman ingin bertanya. Kebetulan pemateri kita memang sudah pakar di bidangnya dan memang sudah terbilang cukup lama dalam berkecimpung di bidang perwakafan dan teknologi. Begitu. Baik. Sebelum saya masuk ke dalam sesi kedua, yaitu pemaparan dari pemateri, saya akan membacakan sedikit profil dari Pak Hamid Rashid. Mungkin nanti akan dilengkapi di presentasi beliau. Pak Hamid Rashid ini merupakan seorang founder dan CEO dari Finterra, di mana Finterra itu adalah sebuah perusahaan yang bergerak di bidang teknologi yang menyediakan jasa layanan berbasis Islami. Dan memang perusahaan Finterra ini sudah beranjak kepada multinasional. Menurut yang saya baca, Finterra sudah berada di beberapa negara, salah satu adalah Singapura, India, Malaysia, Hong Kong, dan Uni Emirat Arab. Dan nanti akan menyusul pembukaan di Timur Tengah dan di Turki kalau nggak salah ya Pak ya? Yes sir. If I'm not wrong, Finterra will be open in Timur Tengah or Turkey maybe?
Inshallah, we are looking this year to open in Jakarta actually first. Inshallah, we are looking in Jakarta.
Alhamdulillah, in Jakarta first, yes. Okay, sir. Before we start your presentation, I would like to ask you about what kind of language do you prefer, sir? Do you want to present in Bahasa, Melayu, or English?
I'll present in English, if you don't mind.
All right. Okay. All right. So the participant should ask you with English, or maybe I would translate it into English from Bahasa.
I will present it in English.
Okay, sir. Okay. All right, sir. All right. Okay. Maybe the participant cannot wait to hear your presentation. So, are you ready, sir?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay. So the time is yours.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can see your PowerPoint here.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Hamid Rashid. I'm the founder of Finterra, currently based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's a real pleasure to be invited to share with everyone our experience with Waqf and the blockchain, and our experience globally, how Waqf and Islamic social economics is actually making such a great difference in fighting the COVID-19 and how it is supporting the frontliners globally. And I'll share with you more during my presentation. just to set a small agenda for my session, I'll just be talking on 4 or 5 things. Of course, I'll introduce to you what Finterra is all about and our experience in the last 3 years, what we have been building in terms of Islamic social finance and Waqf technology. I'll also share with you why is COVID-19 such a dangerous pandemic and what it means to fight it. And then, for a lot of you, I'm sure you have heard about blockchain, but you do not know what this technology all about. So I'll give you a quick introduction into blockchain and why this technology is such a game changer globally. And then I will come into Islamic social finance or Islamic social economics, and I'll share with you the differences between sadaqah, zakat, and waqf. And of course, I will focus on why waqf. And we will go into the technology that has been developed in the waqf chain, waqf blockchain. And I'll share with you how this technology actually works. And lastly, I'll share with you the key learnings that we have taken away in the last 2-3 years, and specifically in the last 3 months since this technology has been implemented for a lot of awqafs and waqfs around the world that are actually the frontliners in fighting COVID-19. And some of those success stories I'll share with you. The first thing, of course, you would want to know about me. Like I said, my name is Hamid Rashid. I come from a technology background. I have about 18 years of experience in technology development and technology commercialization. I work for Hewlett-Packard Labs, HP Labs, where I was heading the division for designing of new technologies and commercialization of those technologies out of Singapore, Malaysia, and other countries. Post that, I had few years experience working for Petronas, the Malaysian oil and gas company, but I was in the IT technology division, and I was heading a division that was looking into many different technologies in oil and gas, which is networks, satellite communication, and software, and so many others. Post my time with Petronas, I went on my own, and my first organization was called You and Me Communication, which was a secure communication platform company out of Dallas, Texas, United States. I ran that company for 3 years until we sold it off at a profit, and then I started off Finterra. So Finterra has been around for about coming close to 3 years, about 2.5 years, this is a high-level overview of what Finterra is all about. Finterra is a research and development company that started off in Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Abu Dhabi. And since then, we are also expanding into other countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and of course, Indonesia. What we have been doing is we have been researching on Islamic social finance. And later on, I'll come to you with more depth on what is Islamic social finance. And we looked at that Islamic finance was the staple around the world. And then about 15-20 years back, Islamic banking came about. And Islamic banking then became global basically in every Islamic country, right? And it's basically a available feature in every Islamic country. Now, Islamic social finance is actually what is historic in the Islamic community. Now, Islamic banking is only about 20 years old, but Islamic economics or Islamic social economics and finance is 1400 years. From the Prophet and the Sahaba's time, we have been practicing, right, and is very well documented legally and well documented cases where sadaqah, zakat, waqf, wasiya, and takaful operates within the Islamic community, and it becomes a social security feature of the Islamic community. So I'll talk a little bit more in depth into that. So what Finterra has been doing is researching on the historic laws, practices, and accounting practices of sadaqah, zakat, and waqf, and building it into a technology platform. So just like you have an accounting system, you have banking systems, you have so many other IT systems that are actually operating the industry, but there are no systems for Islamic social finance and Islamic social economics. So we have been building those accounting systems for Sadaqah, Zakat, and Waqf, and making it available to government agencies and many private agencies. Also, Finterra, of course, is available in many jurisdictions. Today, the team is about 50 plus people based in these countries under the banner of Finterra. We are ISO 27000 compliant, which is information security, because we manage a lot of transactional data on Sadaqah, Zakat, and Waqf. So we are compliant to ISO 27000. And we also, end of last year, got our Sharia certification on the processes that we have built and the policies that we have built within the product. We have a Sharia assessment and a certification on it. So this is, what Finterra is all about. It is a technology company that is bringing Islamic social finance solutions to the industry. Now, last 4 or 5 months, for the first time, we started hearing of a new pandemic. I mean, we have heard of SARS, we have heard about mad cow disease, we have heard about, malaria, and so many. But for the first time last November, out of China, Wuhan, we started hearing about something called COVID-19. And we were wondering, is it really dangerous? Has it got to do anything with me? Will I get affected? Or maybe my country is very far away from it, nothing happens to me. So November, December, whole of Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, we were very relaxed. We had no issue, right? We were not worried. And then we started realizing that it starts spreading. And the spread was phenomenal. Thousands of people contracting it on a daily basis. And hundreds and later thousands of people started dying from it. And then suddenly the government started panicking. Now, what this COVID-19 was all about was kind of, a malaria type of a flu fever, where people were getting fever, running nose, cough, and then other symptoms of breathing problem, pneumonia, and those. That the doctors and the healthcare industry had never seen it. And the spread of it was phenomenal. This was never seen before. That it was spreading through breath, through cough, and through small particles coming from contracted people. So what the country started doing from end of February and March, especially globally, the country started having social distancing and lockdowns. So in Malaysia, the lockdown started on 18th of March, and so far it is going to be extended till 12th of May. Likewise, in Indonesia also started in March and is going on. In Singapore currently is complete lockdown till end of June. India, and it goes on all over the world. Now, this slide, these numbers that I took was actually from last night. 3.1 million people globally have contracted COVID-19. That is as of last night. And this is just in last 3+ months. So imagine how fast it is growing. And if you look at just on the other side, how many people actually have died from it? 218,000 people globally have died from it. This is crazy. So the last time we saw something like this was in 1917, which was called the Spanish flu. And the Spanish flu, again, was something like this, where the medical industry did not understand it, right? And at that time, the healthcare industry was not so mature. It is spread globally, and millions of people died. So taking lessons from Spanish flu, we have to apply that in COVID-19, where social distancing is a must, okay? And a lockdown, complete movement control, a lockdown has to be there, okay? Until either a vaccine is developed or the number of cases basically becomes negligible. Now, what the main problems that we have seen since this COVID-19 started? Because the spread has been so fast and so wide, right? 3.1 million people have contracted it in the last 4 months. We saw, number one, that all countries were scrambling for PPE, the protective gear for the healthcare and also for the frontliners. There wasn't enough PPE around the world. Even if you recall, back in February and March, you couldn't find a face mask in a pharmacy. And later on, the face mask, they're selling it in Malaysia for 5 ringgit one. In Emirates, they were selling it for 5 to 8 dirham one PPE, which was just crazy. Also, personal, hygiene products like sanitizer and all totally disappeared. There was a shortage of it. Other problems that we saw within the healthcare industry, not enough doctors, nurses, and frontliners, to take care of the number of patients coming through the doors. The number of ICU beds in Italy, there was suddenly no ICU beds, and patients had to be taken care of on the floor and makeshift facilities like tents and other things, where army had to be called and Navy was called to start hosting patients on ships and other places. And the most shocking thing that we saw, that the critical cases didn't have enough ventilators. Now, ventilator is something that we don't really think of every day. Even in the healthcare industry, they don't think of, because ventilators are only for very few critical cases. But COVID-19 cases were basically all critical. So hundreds and thousands of people started coming into hospitals and required ventilator, and there was suddenly no ventilators. And in Italy, France, Germany, doctors had to make a decision whether to put a patient on a ventilator or to take them off. So they were making choices on who lives and who dies. Shocking. So this is what we saw in the last 4 months, that the whole healthcare industry melted down. Now, I'm sure in IT and other industries, you have heard of disruption, right? Disruptive technology and disruption. For the first time, we saw all our industries, whether it was tourism industry, which is hotels, airlines, and restaurants and F&B, started melting down because of social distancing. Retail industry totally shut down. All shopping malls are shut down. Only some convenience stores are open, and that also limited time openings. Education industry is total shutdown. All universities, schools, everything is shut down until this thing comes under control. F&B, transport industry, healthcare industry, everything is shut down. So for the first time, we saw actual disruption because of a contractable disease. At such rapid growth, we saw complete disruption. But then what history has taught us is that disruption, right, brings innovation. So this is why we are having this conference today, that you would not have imagined listening to me over a video conference. I have been visiting Jakarta in the last 4 or 5 months and giving large sessions to different government agencies, and I was physically presenting to large groups. But today, because of COVID-19, I get to speak to you on a video conference. So what the industry is seeing is technological, right, adoption and technological innovations that are coming. So inshallah, that the healthcare industry will get control or take control of COVID-19. Already you can see on the news that different vaccines in different countries have started, pilots, and over time they will develop a vaccine. And in Malaysia, the number of cases, alhamdulillah, has gone down to below 50 cases on average on daily basis, right? But of course, it's still a lockdown and we still have to be cautious. So what technology is going to bring, and whatever technology it is, right? We can't say that it will be one or the other technology, but whatever technology that's going to come and be successful has to go through certain iterations. The first point of this iteration is going to be the mass adoption. Some technology that will be adopted by the masses, just like video conferencing, right? Today, millions of people are on video conference and are having meetings and conferences and classrooms and every kind of meetings happening on video conference. So mass adoption. Technologies that are trustworthy. So trustable type of technology where there is a trust. So if you remember when this lockdown started and people started using different video conferencing tools, there's one tool called Zoom, and suddenly a security threat came into Zoom, where hackers were able to get into those sessions, either shut down those sessions or creating havoc in those sessions. So like that, we have to come out with technologies and look for technologies that are trustworthy. Regulatory compliance is other thing, where a lot of technologies, right, will have to go through regulators like Central Bank, Securities Commission, Badan and Waqf or Yayas and Waqf here in Malaysia. So technologies which are specific to these industries, the industry regulators will have to endorse them for them to become useful for the masses. And of course, the security of that technology. So if you look at one such technology that has stood out in the last 4 or 5 years is a technology called blockchain. Many of you would have heard about blockchain, and when you hear about blockchain, the first thing that comes to your mind is Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. So let me give you a little bit background into what this blockchain is all about. Blockchain is not synonymous with cryptocurrencies or with Bitcoin. So an analogy that I use is blockchain is an operating system similar to your Microsoft Windows is an operating platform, and cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin is an application that runs on top of blockchain. So it is like Microsoft Office running on Microsoft Windows, right? So Microsoft Windows doesn't have much use. It's just an operating platform for your PC, laptop, or server. But when you put your Microsoft Office on your laptop or PC, then it creates productivity. You can do your PowerPoint, your Excel, Word, and other things. So Bitcoin is only an application running on top of blockchain. And yes, it has certain applications, right? And recently, we have other platforms like Ethereum network, right? Dash network, EOS network, and so many other networks coming up that have more application compared to Bitcoin only. So what is so special about this blockchain technology? Why are we so crazy, about it in the technology industry versus all the other technology that exists like Oracle and SAP and Microsoft and all? Why everybody is talking about the blockchain technology and trying to bring this technology in every industry that we can think of? There are 5 key elements within the blockchain that make it so special. Now, these 5 elements are nothing new. You would have heard about them. They existed for the last 20, 25 years in IT, but for the first time, these 5 elements have been combined together into one single platform called the blockchain. And of course, there are different, flavors or different versions of blockchain, like the Bitcoin blockchain, Ethereum blockchain, EOS blockchain, so many different blockchains. So let's go through quickly what these 5 elements are in the blockchain. The first one is, it is a decentralized network. What decentralized network means is blockchain has no central server or central node. Just like our data centers have a central server which serves all the different branches, in blockchain, all servers are central. So it is called distributed. It exists, the data exists all over the network. In every single server or PC that is connected on the network, the data gets replicated. So it is a distributed network. So if one node of the network goes down, the integrity of the whole network still remains there. It's not like currently our banking system. If the HQ server goes down and you go into the bank branch, so they say, my system is down, I cannot serve you because the HQ server has gone down, right? But in blockchain case, each server, each PC is a standalone. It is shared publicly. So blockchains are supposed to be public ledgers, right? What public ledger means is every transaction that takes on a blockchain, meaning you write some data or you pull some data out from a blockchain, it is visible for public scrutiny, meaning it gets published publicly and anyone can see who has done the transaction, what time, where, amount, everything is publicly available. So it is very transparent. Versus if you look at other databases where once data is written, you don't know what is in the database unless you are administrator or you have access to it. But in blockchain, it can be made publicly available. So if I give you an example, a transaction takes place on the Ethereum network. You can go to etherscan.com and actually put in the transaction hash and trace back who conducted the transaction, what was the amount, what time, and the geographic location. It is also considered to be very secure. Extremely secure because historically in IT, we have been looking at security only from antivirus point of view, firewall point of view, and few other things. But blockchain, what it does is, it doesn't look at all these things. Blockchain makes its data available because it is cryptographically written. And that is why it is called, say, cryptocurrency, because it has a cryptography element to it. Every transaction that is written into a blockchain gets cryptographically hashed, okay, and then stored in the database. So anyone that will steal that piece of data, that transaction, cannot do anything with it unless they have a decryptor to decrypt that data. So it is very, very secure compared to our standard systems and databases out there. It is also very trusted because when the data is cryptographically written and only the person who has the key for the decryption can open it, it can be trusted. So whatever data that you are getting out of a blockchain database can be trusted 100%. And lastly, it is automated. So we are talking about network, we are talking about database, we are talking about different elements within the blockchain ecosystem or environment. They're all automated. So it's not that 5 different systems are running. It is a single system that is built as one called the blockchain, and it is fully automated. Now, when we talk about blockchain, there are many different blockchains based on the different use cases or industry use cases. Different companies, different entities have built different versions of blockchain. So for cryptocurrencies, of course, most popular is Bitcoin, then comes Ethereum, Dash, and few others, right? So like that, if you notice, vertically based on the industry requirement, there are different flavors of blockchain. Sorry. Now, you'll be thinking, okay, all that is very nice, but who is actually using this blockchain? And what application does it have in the industry? Now, if you look at this based on Pricewaterhouse, a slide that I took from them, over the next 10 years, it is expected that blockchain would power about $3 trillion worth of industry. And that industry can be broken, if you notice here, transport industry. So logistics, transport industry would be using blockchain. And today that's already happening. So if you look at the big shipping company, right, MISC in Malaysia, or if you look at, say, DHL, or you look at, say, Singapore Airlines, the freight forwarding, they're already using blockchain to track the parcels and to track the freight that is moving. They're using blockchain backend. Public sector is another key industry that is adopting blockchain for security or identity related solutions. Things like your identity card, passport, visas, driving license. All these cards with photo on it, fingerprint on it, iris on it, or serial numbers on it are being keyed into blockchain. The data is reserved within blockchain, and then the different agencies of the government, right, is pulling the data from a blockchain. So immigration would write visa, the visas they're issuing into a blockchain. So when the police department pulls out the data, they pull it out from a blockchain because it will be trusted. The visa cannot be fake because it was written by the immigration. Other industry that became or is becoming very popular with blockchain is the financial industry. Now, you'll be wondering which financial industry is using blockchain. Today, some of the large banks around the world, like Standard Chartered Bank, HSBC, Citibank, Lloyds Bank of London, Maybank here in Malaysia, CIMB Bank here in Malaysia are already using blockchain. Mainly blockchain is being used for cross-border money remittance. Okay, that's main. And the second use case that is becoming very popular is invoice financing or credit financing. Okay, so these are some of the big use cases around the world where blockchain is being used, and it is becoming more and more use cases of blockchain. Now, the hindrances that we saw in adoption of blockchain by industry are some of these, right? Where a lot of CTOs of organizations feel that blockchain technology is not very mature. We totally agree. because blockchain is only 5 years old since it's main, coming into the mainstream. Versus if you look at, say, internet. If you recall, right, I don't know how many of you were there in 1998 and 99 when internet was becoming popular. I mean, what was the use cases of internet in 1998 and 99? Mainly, we were using it for basic website, for chatting, right? And online games and e-commerce was very, very less, right? This was the only use case. But today, if you think of internet, we do everything over internet. We are having this video conference over internet. We are having text-based document sharing, emails, and you name it, yeah, right? We have it on the internet. So it takes time for use cases to be built and for industry to adopt. So the same thing is happening with the blockchain technology, that only it has been around for the last 5 years, and different industries are adopting it and creating use cases. And over a period of 10 or 20 years, it will become a back-end mainstream technology. But the one key hindrance I would like to point out to you is regulatory compliance. Our regulators like Central Bank, Securities Commission, Telecom Commission, also our Sharia agencies, Waqf agency, Zakat agency, the government agencies did not understand the blockchain technology early on. Only in the last 1.5 years, they have started making effort to try and understand. So for the last 3 years, what has been happening is there have been no regulations or laws governing the use of blockchain, cryptocurrencies, smart contracts, and so many of these sub-features of a blockchain in the industry. So a lot of time, when you talk about blockchain, you talk about cryptocurrency, you are thinking about Ponzi scheme, you're thinking about scams, and all of this we get to hear. But then there are a lot of industries that are using blockchain and cryptocurrency in a very legal manner. So regulations that came out of, say, Malta, Gibraltar, UK, Bahrain, from Switzerland, these are regulations that are actually governing the use of blockchain and cryptocurrencies for the industry. But regulators, say in Southeast Asia, have been a little bit slow in adopting. Only in Malaysia, recently, hardly 6 months back, Central Bank and Securities Commission brought basic regulations around ICO, which is initial coin offering, right? STO, the security token offering, and the use of crypto exchanges. Only recently these regulations have started coming, and licenses have been, started being offered to industry. So over time, you will see as regulations become mainstream, then the technology also adoption of it will become mainstream by industry. Now, how does this technology then relate to a very specific area in Islamic finance called Islamic social finance? So let me take you a little bit into history. Islamic finance, yes, existed, but Islamic banking never existed in the history of Islam. Islam has 1400 years of history, behind us. Islamic banking is a creation of the last 20 years, okay, where there was conventional banks, and in Muslim countries, the community and the government felt that to offer conventional banking with riba, right, or debt-based banking to the community was not very favorable. So there was a customization of that and Islamization of that offering, and Islamic banks were created, right? And now today you can see there are so many Islamic banks in Indonesia, Malaysia, basically every Islamic country that's offering Sharia-based, banking. But it's a very new invention. Historically, in Islamic community, in the last 1400 years, we had only Islamic social finance or economics. And I call it the 5 elements of Islamic social finance. Those 5 elements are sadaqah, which is charity, zakat, which is charitable tax. Yeah, it's not tax, it is charitable tax. Waqf, which is endowment. Wasiya, which is wills, a will before someone passes away, they write a will. And takaful, which is Islamic insurance. So for today's session, I want to focus on Waqf, which is endowments, okay? And how Waqf adopting technology like the blockchain technology has enhanced its outlook to many different new industry segments. Okay, so we know that sadaqah has been around, right? And I'm sure you give sadaqah outside the mosque to the needy person, online, through crowdfunding platforms. You are giving sadaqah for so many different contributions, right? And sadaqah is when you give, you're giving it fi sabilillah, is given, and that principle, what is collected as sadaqah, is consumed in principle. Okay. Zakat is that it is calculated on a principal amount, basically your earning for the whole year. So if your earning is above certain threshold, then a 2.5% zakat is calculated, and that zakat is given to an institution. In Indonesia is of course Basnas, in Malaysia is PPZ under Baitul Mal, and then different countries have their zakat agency. Now this zakat is calculated, right, and given to a central body, and this central body then accounts for the collection and also its disbursement. Now the thing with zakat disbursement is the funds can only be dispersed to 7 AML groups. Okay, so these 7 AML groups are predefined, and then the disbursement happen to these groups. Okay, and is done by the agency, not individually by us. Okay. Now, in the case of Waqf, right, the Waqf itself globally is very, I would call it cluttered. Based on our research and experience around the world, in India with Waqf, in Saudi Arabia, in Turkey, Malaysia, Indonesia, Waqf is very different. Okay, the way it is structured legally in that country and the way it is practiced. And Waqf, surprisingly, has not gotten due attention in the last many years. Okay, so you can see the zakat, there is so many, any bank, you can go to any bank and you can pay your zakat, right? They have a slip, you just fill in, you pay your zakat. Sadaqah you want to give, you can go to any mosque, right? Any ustaz, you can give sadaqah. But if I ask you that here is some money, go and give Waqf, where are you going to go and give Waqf? Either there are no agencies in some countries, right? But luckily in Indonesia, there are few agencies that are managing Waqf, but very few, and not very easy to find them where to go and give Waqf. Now, also Waqf, the concept itself is when you give asset into charity, and that asset cannot be consumed in principle. The asset has to be worked. The revenue or the profit that is generated from working that asset can then go into charity. So example is, say I have a piece of land. I give that land into Waqf. Now, Badanan Waqf rents or leases this land to someone. The rental income, lease income, is what can be put into charity. So the land cannot be sold, the land cannot be transferred, right? And the land has limitations because it falls now under the Waqf law, okay, endowment law. So it was very difficult because not everybody have land, not everybody has gold, not everybody has property to give into Waqf. So many years ago, the ulama sat down and they came out with a fatwa for something called cash Waqf. That now you can give your cash, 100 rupiah or 10 ringgit, you can give into Waqf. Because cash is considered in accounting as asset. So if cash is given into Waqf, that cash principal, right, can be invested. The return from this investment can go into charities. So there is now the concept of cash Waqf, and makes it very easy for everyone to give Waqf. Now, the Waqf blockchain that we built, right, over the last 2+ years is here on mywaqf.com, MYWAQF, mywaqf.com. And what the model looks like is this. A little bit confusing, but let me explain to you, just 3 points only, right? In every Waqf, the first thing that we need to do is someone to create the Waqf. So it is not like Sadaqah and Zakat. Sadaqah is if you just think and you feel that your neighbor has a problem or someone you see is in need of some money or something, you can take that money and give it as Sadaqah because your niyyah, your intention is to give Sadaqah, so you give. Okay, you don't look at, really does this person need it? How is he going to use it? And all that you don't think is just your niyyah, you give it, right? Zakat is, you have no choice. If your earning is above certain threshold, you put 2.5%, you calculate the zakat, you go and pay it into Baznas, and that's it. You don't ask question how Baznas is going to use it, who will they give it, when will they give it. You don't ask all those questions. Your duty, right, religiously, is to calculate 2.5% on your income and give it into zakat. But Waqf is very different. You as a donor to Waqf can never give Waqf if the Waqf board or the Awqaf doesn't create a project or a cause. So there has to be a Waqf cause created by a Nazir, and only you can give the funds or the asset to the Nazir. So you cannot just go to the mosque and say, here's a Waqf. No, that's not legal. Okay, so you have to find if whoever you're giving the Waqf funds to is a registered Nazir with the Waqf board or with the Awqaf. So the first thing that happens in Waqf is the Nazir creates a project. So example we'll use today is of the COVID-19. So example, if say for COVID-19, we wanted to buy 100 ventilators for our hospital. So we want to raise $1 million. So the Nazir will create a cause for raising $1 million to buy ventilators. Okay. So first thing is Nazir create the cause, and then Nazir has to publish that cause or popularize that cause, promote that cause, and then the community and different agencies give funds. So when you are giving fund to a Waqf cause, your niyyah, your intention is cash Waqf. That you're giving 100 rupiah or 1000 rupiah, you're giving into the cash Waqf. So here is when you have given the cash Waqf, right? You have given it, you do not expect anything back. Okay. And when the Nazir collects the money, they then work with a procurement or with a supplier to use this Waqf money. From cash Waqf, they convert it into ventilators. I would categorize them as movable assets, because the ventilators move. They're not like land or property. They don't stay. They're not fixed. So the cash Waqf is converted into the ventilators, the units. Okay. And then the ventilators become Waqf, and then they are donated to the different hospitals for use. So whoever uses the ventilator, the use of it is what you get ajr for as a donor to cash Waqf. Okay. And of course, the Nazir is then supposed to report back to the donors how many ventilators they bought, who did they donate to, which hospitals are using those, right? And hospitals are supposed to inform the donors how many patients benefited from these ventilators, right? So the first part of the Waqf whole equation is the collection of the funds, okay? Collection of the funds or the source of the funds. So the source can be through crowdfunding. If it is a blockchain or if it's an IT, online cloud solution, it is a crowdfunding. Or it could also be through corporate donations. A lot of corporates have CSR. They can give their CSR dollar funds into Waqf. Of course, to collect the Waqf based on our regulatory compliance, we need to know who the donors are, what their name is, their IC number, their address, because if the amounts are large, then the central bank dictates that you must do a KYC and AML before you can take funds, even for Waqf. Okay, so the first part is the source of funds, collection and raising of Waqf fund. The second part of Waqf is the management and accounting of the fund. Okay, so management, accounting of the fund is when the funds are received, you're doing accounting. Who did they come from? The total funds that were collected, and what was the purpose of this fund. And the management of the fund is either the fund can be converted into a movable or fixed asset, and that asset then becomes Waqf, or these funds are invested into Sharia compliant investment, and the return from the investment is what can be used for charities. Okay, so your principal amount that was collected as cash Waqf always remains in perpetuity. That cannot diminish. And the last part of the Waqf is the disbursement and impact reporting. Okay, disbursement and impact reporting is that once the profit is generated from the principal amount, okay, it has to be dispersed. So who it is being dispersed? It has to be dispersed to NGOs, to charities, right? To the ASNAF groups. It has to be dispersed. And the impact has to be reported back to the donors. Now, this is what the whole platform of mywaqf.com on the blockchain is actually doing, okay? It is raising funds through crowdfunding online, through social media. It is accounting for the fund, right? That who gives the money for what purpose. It accounts for the whole fund. It also manages the fund. What it does is it takes the fund, it invests into different Islamic investments all over the world. The return from these Islamic investments then is going to charities. And who these charities are, some could be orphanage, some could be healthcare, some could be others, right? Where this, and it reports on the impact, how the money was used, what benefit came out of the money, okay? So this is, in principle, what the Waqf blockchain does. Now, what we have learned from this Waqf blockchain in the last, 2+ years since we went live, and especially during this pandemic of COVID-19, what have we learned? The first thing that we learned for coming from Waqf blockchain, one was that for the first time, a Waqf platform became like a omni-channel banking service. To explain this to you is because this whole Waqf system, if you look at it, it has elements of e-wallet, it has element of payment gateway, it has element of crowdfunding, it has element of investment, of financing, and also charities. So it becomes a single tool for a user, right, to be able to load your wallet, right, and to use your payment gateway, to be able to give the fund to charities, okay? So it becomes a complete, like a banking solution. So the Waqf is able to offer to the community a total banking solution. It has consolidated payments, meaning it has e-wallets, Visa, Master, PayPal, so many different payment gateways consolidated in it, so that it becomes very easy for the donors to be able to give into Waqf as cash Waqf. It is totally transparent because every time you donate, you give into the platform, it is registering the transaction onto the blockchain. So at any time, you can actually go into the Ether scan, put in your transaction hash, and it will show you where did your money go. So that brings us into traceability. There is total traceability of the fund. You can see from the point it was donated, all the point to the point it was consumed or benefited by the NGO. You can see the total track of how the money actually flowed to the NGO and how much. So maybe you have given 1,000 rupiah, but how much did actually the NGO get? How many deductions were there? You can see all of that. So this is the beauty of a technology like blockchain, because it brings transparency into the transaction and it brings traceability into the transaction, the whole journey of the transaction. Now, some of the success stories that I would like to share with you, right, that I'm following and seeing is in Indonesia, Basnas and BWI, Badan al-Waqf, right, since this COVID-19 started 2-3 months ago, a lot of Waqf funds, cash Waqf funds have been given to the government from Badan al-Waqf. Now, Badan al-Waqf, the cash Waqf, when they give, they're not giving it that fund is going to be consumed, meaning it will be used for food and electricity and rental. No, these funds are given to buy PPE, the protective gear, because that's movable asset, into ventilators, into ICU beds, into infrastructure related. But Basnas has been giving a lot of funds, and Basnas has been very proactive in their response, using their volunteers nationwide. They're using their volunteers to actually do distribution of food, cooked and non-cooked. Also educating the rural community on what is COVID-19, right? What precautions to take for social distancing. And they have been very proactive. So I'm very happy, to share this success story of Basnas and Badan al-Waqf from Indonesia in the last 3 months, the proactive actions that they have taken using Islamic social finance way of raising funds, managing funds, distributing funds, and reporting their impact. So if you go on their website, you can see daily updates on their website on the impact that their funds or your funds, your contributions are making to the community. Similarly, here in Malaysia, Yayasan Waqf Putrajaya, Yayasan Waqf Malaysia, and also Yayasan Taqwa, the charity organization. These are two, but of course there are many others. So I'm not discounting all the others' efforts. There are a lot of frontline efforts that are happening. But since we are talking about just Islamic social finance, I want to highlight that these two agencies in Malaysia are very, very proactive in reaching out to corporates, okay? Raising the funds from corporates. So hundreds of millions of ringgit has been raised in the last 2 months by Yayasan Waqf and Yayasan Taqwa through corporate donations, through individual donations. And these funds are actually financing the purchase of PPE, purchase of sanitizers, purchase of ventilators, ICU beds, and for the charity part, distribution of cooked and non-cooked food, education programs. And now since Ramadan has started, they have a lot of programs during Ramadan of distribution of food and also distribution of Quran, and also learning tafsir every evening. So these are two success stories that are using Islamic social finance and actually being the front line, fighting COVID-19. There are many others that are our clients, and we talk to them very regularly around the world that are using, sadaqah, zakat, and waqf, and the platform that we have provided them to raise funding, to account for the funding, and to distribute this funding and to report impact. Thank you very much. This was my short session. I hope you had a learning out of this on a better understanding on what is the blockchain technology, how this technology is being applied into Islamic social finance, and the success stories that are coming out from Malaysia and Indonesia on Islamic social finance being used to fund and to fight COVID-19. Jazakallah, and thank you very much. I appreciate the time and patience.
Okay, thank you, sir. That was an amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, that's interesting because if we talk about blockchain, as we know, most of people think that blockchain is only cryptocurrency and
yes,
only like for payment.
Yes.
Yes, nah. But from what we hear from you, that blockchain is not only for cryptocurrency, but it's more like a huge technology to support our environment. Yes.
Yes.
All right, but I have several questions,
Yes.
and we are still looking for the question from the audience.
Okay.
So in Indonesia, you shared to us about the success story, and also in Malaysia.
Yes.
But as we know, in Indonesia, has a brief standardization for Nazir.
Yes.
Yes. Now, so what kind of standard of Waqf blockchain? Is there any clear regulation from each country that Finterra in, sir?
Because the Waqf blockchain, there are two elements to it. One is the blockchain element, and the second is the Islamic social finance element. So the first element, blockchain, yes, a lot of countries have come out with either fintech or sandbox regulations. So in Indonesia, there are some sandbox regulation and fintech regulations for how to use blockchain and cryptocurrencies. The second regulation, Islamic social finance, which is zakat, sadaqah, and waqf. Of course, those regulations are very refined. They're there. So when we come to Indonesia, we talk with different regulators, right? Firstly, we need to educate them how to bring technology into their sector. So like Badan and Waqf, we educated them, ran several workshops with them, and we show them how this technology will benefit their operation. Second thing is to operationalize the implementation of this technology for the whole country. Then we talk to agencies like KNKS or KNEKS. So KNKS is taking the lead in looking at various technologies for Sadaqah, Zakat, and Waqf. So we are pitching for the Waqf, that Waqf could be a platform on the blockchain, and we are looking to pilot it in Indonesia with, of course, Badan and Waqf, Baznas, and with KNKS. So you see that regulations are emerging. They are not there right now. But as education and awareness is growing, the regulations are coming, right? And when the regulations are there, you'll see the explosion of the technology.
All right. So there's a similarity from the Malaysia regulation and from Indonesia, of course. So there's a new question, sir, from Dimas Andrianto.
Yes.
So Dimas is a student. Oh no, is alumni from Binus University in Indonesia.
Okay.
She asked about the blockchain. She said, I would like to know, where does the data stored in blockchain? Thank you.
Okay. See, blockchain is, of course, a server, but it is not one single server. It is multiple servers, and these servers are called nodes. So when you set up a blockchain, you set up multiple nodes. So if, say, today we take example of Bitcoin. Bitcoin has almost 12,500 nodes around the world, right? And what these nodes are, these are anyone that is running a node of Bitcoin on their PC or on their server or on their laptop. They might be running, right? So that becomes a node. So the data, right, is stored within the node. Now, how the data can be stored, such a large data can be stored in each node, is because it is cryptographically being written. So when any transaction in a blockchain is written, it gets converted to what is known as SHA, SHA-256. So 256-bit, SHA 256-bit data. So imagine your whole transaction is getting squeezed into 256-bit and is written into the database. So large data can be squeezed into any blockchain database. So the data exists on every node, and it is always getting replicated in all the nodes. So if, say, I'm sitting here in Malaysia, I have a node, you are in Indonesia, you have another node, we have a US node, we have a China node, a Japan node. Even if the Malaysian node goes down, right, I switch it off, it doesn't make any difference because the data has got replicated and is written in every node. So this is what is known as distribution, or distributed ledger technology, DLT, distributed ledger technology, or distributed network. So blockchain data is written in every node. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, so in other words, that the data is already saved in cloud, yes.
In cloud, yes, in cloud and in distributed networks of the cloud.
Like that, sir?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We move to another question. I hope the previous question is already answered.
Okay.
So the next question is from Abdul Wahab Lubis. He is a student from Islamic State Malang, Islamic State University Malang.
Okay.
She asks, is it the only problem is regulation that not yet regulate? On your point of view, what are the problems need to be fixed before blockchain can integrate it in the swap system?
Okay.
Is it clear enough,
Yes.
sir?
I don't think it's only regulation. So if I have to say list down my top 3 issues in blockchain in Islamic finance or Islamic social finance from my experience of the last 2-3 years, I'll put number 1 would be regulation, definitely. Okay, because here we're looking at 2 different regulations. One is the Central Bank Securities Commission regulation, and another is the Sharia, the Islamic finance regulation, which is under, say, Baznas or under Badan and Waqf. Okay, so bringing all these parties together to accept is time consuming and is taking time. So regulation. Second is the understanding, awareness, and adoption. Okay, so as one word. Understanding, because these agencies historically are not technology agencies, right? They are not very technical. I think if you look at Badan and Waqf, they have a very nice website, but they don't have very big ERP systems or very, they're not very technical people. They have a nice website and they do things, simply. But if you look at blockchain, it is very technologically advanced system. So it is taking time for us to educate them in blockchain technology because they're worried about the security, they're worried about compliance and so many other issues. So we have to educate them. We have to also make them aware that there are many other countries around the world that are already using it. So we have to showcase a lot of use cases and success stories to them. Okay, so this is the second area. And third area is that integrating blockchain in their existing system or deploying a brand new system for them. So if you look at, say, crowdfunding, today Baznas and Badan and Waqf have some element of crowdfunding already. Okay, on their website, you can contribute to certain funds. They have payment gateway already integrated. Now we want to integrate a blockchain environment for them, right? So sometimes what happens is, they have built the technology on using some other PHP or Microsoft or Oracle or something. And then we bring in the blockchain. Sometimes it's time consuming, or sometimes the integrations are not very good, right? So these are the 3 major challenges that I see in adoption of blockchain, right? One is regulation. Second is the education and understanding part. Third is the integration of the technology. Yes.
Okay. Yes, because the blockchain is not only integrated from technology and regulation, there is also another aspect that we should know.
Yes.
Okay. I hope the previous question is already answered by Mr. Rashid. Namun jika memang belum merasa terjawab, peserta diperkenankan untuk menyalakan mikrofonnya dan memperjelasnya kembali. Okay, we move to another question, sir, because yes. I think in some cases in our countries globally, there is some countries that has not a clear technology to support the blockchain.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what do you think? What do you think about? Is it we should to fix the technology first, or we have to make a brief regulation first?
See, blockchain has been around mainstream for the last 5 years. Okay, and as any technology, and technology will keep evolving. Until today, you see Microsoft Windows keep adopting. You had Microsoft Windows 95, 98, XP, 2000, and it keeps, and now we have Windows 10. Technology will always keep improving and enhancing. We can't wait for the technology to become fully developed. Only then we look at it, right? Because we are innovators, we are pioneers. So for technological innovation, we need to adopt the technology as soon as it is available. So blockchains, there are so many different blockchains, but blockchains are already, I would say, mature enough to be used because large industries Citibank, Standard Chartered Bank, Singapore Airlines, CIMB Bank, they're already using blockchains for different purposes, right? So technology is already advanced. So I would say that the adoption should be before the regulation, because you need to pilot it. Because when you go to central bank, they ask you, do you already have implemented the system? Have you already built the system? Because they don't want to look at a concept paper. They want to look at that it is already up and running, right? They want to see that if they give you a sandbox license, or if they give you a pilot license, that you are able to deploy it immediately. It's not just a concept. So I think from my take, right, as a technology person and as an innovator, right, you should get into the technology first. Understand the technology, deploy the technology, start using the technology, okay? And then at the same time, be working with the regulators, educating them and asking them what you need from them. That you need license for cross-border, you need license for e-wallet, you need license for, say, financing or investments, you need license for, different features of the product. So I would address it in that manner.
Okay, it's clear enough for me, sir. Thank you. But it's a similar question from Indah Nur Maulina. She asking about the Waqf, productive Waqf or Waqf productive.
Yes.
And on your previous presentation, you mentioned cash Waqf, or we give our money to the institution, and there will be distribute it into something else, that like ICU bed or something else.
Yes.
But Indah Nurmalina asked about how does every country try to maintain a productive Waqf when this pandemic occurs? As we know that the supply chain in every country was disrupted.
Yes.
In other words, is going down by the pandemic, sir.
Yeah. Technology cannot be an answer to everything, but what productive Waqf actually means is that whatever asset that is under Waqf, right, should be revenue worthy or should be generating revenue. Okay. So what has been the issue in the last 100 years? Basically every country, Malaysia, India, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, that lot of the assets in our Waqf, even Indonesia, are not generating any revenue. There's a piece of land which might be agriculture land sitting far away in the forest, nobody using it. It is Waqf. It is under Badan and Waqf. But because it's not being used, it's not generating any revenue. So it is non-productive. Same thing here happening in Malaysia, right? In India, what happens, there are a lot of buildings from the olden days, which are Waqf buildings, whether they are mosque or they are, shop lots and all, they are sitting there. And because there is no maintenance, they're very old buildings, nobody wants to rent it, they're all falling apart, it is not productive. So what productive Waqf means is that whatever, whether you give cash Waqf or you give asset Waqf, that Waqf must produce revenue. So when you put cash Waqf into Sharia investments, the Sharia investment must have a positive ROI, positive return on investment. And that positive return on investment is what will go into charity, whether it is to buy PPE or ventilators or it is to buy food for the yatim. But it is that revenue that is generated from the Waqf. And the same thing happens with the asset Waqf, that your asset must be leased out, right, or must be doing something to generate revenue, and that revenue is what is then going into financing the charities and others. So I think my view is very clear that a lot of time Waqf needs to be looked at from a business point of view, okay, from an asset management point of view versus from a charity point of view, because sadaqah and zakat are pure charities, meaning whatever you have given should be consumed, okay, in principle. And the niyyah of the giver is charity, sadaqah, fi sabilillah. But in the case of Waqf, It is fi sabilillah, yes, true. But the asset, if the asset doesn't generate revenue, then there is no benefit to the community, no benefit to the charity. So Waqf must be looked at from an asset management point of view. Lease, feasibility, business potential. That is what we need to look at Waqf from. Thank you.
Okay, sir. I agree with your statement that Waqf should be produce revenue because from that profit we can produce for charity for the yatim or maybe for another productive sector. So this is similar to the previous question from Fitri Wulandari Gunadarma. She asked about the strategy of Finterra to attract the attention of people. So the people relate to Waqf chain while the community is in a period of panic and instability.
Yes.
So means people will attract and use money for their own needs.
Yes. So the strategy of Finterra from day one.
Clear, sir?
The strategy of Finterra from day one has been that we are technology and automation providers to Waqf, Zakat, and even Sadaqah. So if we look at specifically Waqf and some of the clients that I shared with you globally, what we do for them, right, even in Indonesia, we are speaking to Badana Waqf to implement the system for them, is to automate their process. Today, Waqf, right, first thing is that the general community, public, you, myself, we don't know where the Waqf project is. Is there a website? Is there a directory I can go to find all the Waqf projects? No, we don't know. So how can I give into Waqf if I don't know where the Waqf project is, right? So the first thing that we do, Finterra does for the Waqf agencies, whether it is Waqf board or Waqf in the Middle East, is to create a directory for them, to give them a platform where they can list all their Waqf projects. And when they list the Waqf project there, it is a website, is cloud-based, that the whole community can come to that site and see what the different projects are. Whether it is a COVID-19 related project, or it is a Rumah Yatim related project, or it's an education project, everyone can see all the projects and how much money needs to be raised. Okay. Now, automation is very important because it gives transparency. Now, whenever you are giving, right, into charity, you have no idea whether your money actually goes to the last mile to the beneficiary. You know that you have given it to an agency. You trust the agency. But I think in the Gen Y, X, we are people with the mobile phone. We like information on our fingertips. So whenever I give, I quickly want to know, just like Grab, where is my taxi? It's just like food, I want to see like Food Panda, where's my food? How many minutes it will come to me, right? So when I give into Waqf, into Sadaqah, into Zakat, I want to know where is my money. How much went to the agency? From the agency, how much went to the NGO? From the NGO, how much went to the actual buying the food and giving it? How much went actually to buy the ventilator and giving it as Waqf, right? So there is complete transparency. So this automation brings transparency. And of course, the last part is reporting is very important, right? So like today, if you want to invest or give into any company or into any agency, you go to their website, you look at their track record history, you look at how many projects they've done, whether the project successful or a failure. You look at their annual report, okay? How much money they raise, how much money they invest, what is the return on investment, the ROI, you look at everything. But for Waqf, we don't know. So reporting is very important by the agency like Badana Waqf, Yayasan Waqf, Malaysia. Reporting is very important and transparent reporting to the public. We want to know how many Waqf assets they have. We want to know how much revenue is being generated by each asset, whether it is a positive revenue or negative, they're making loss, we want to know, okay? And we want to know that the profit that they made, who did they give to? And how did that profit help the community, the poor community, the people in need, how did it help them? So Finterra's strategy is to bring automation, technology to the agencies, right? So we give technology, we give consulting and best practices, right? And we help them to also operate this technology. So in this time of COVID-19, I've seen in the last 3 months, so many agencies came to us asking, we need the technology, because now there is a movement control, there is a social distancing. I cannot go to everybody's door asking for sadaqah, zakat, or waqf money. So I need a website, I need payment gateway, right? Quickly, I need an e-wallet, and I need reporting and help me to use this technology. So we saw in the last 3 months, a lot of countries coming to us asking quickly to implement this technology, because now they can raise funds online through online payment gateways. Thank you.
Okay, sir, that was a clear answer, but I'm interested with your statement that the Finterra strategy is how to automation, and the transparency is the key of the strategy. But during the pandemic, is there any difference from the income of the funding collection from Finterra or something else? Because you said that you cannot ask door to door from the people asking for sedekah, wakaf, or zakat. So the platform is the solution.
Yes. So what we have seen in terms of the fund raised in the last 3 months, of course, the raising has gone, skyrocketed. We are raising much more funds compared to normal. But if you see, the fund raise are very specific to all the COVID-19, the corona causes. So we are running right now in Malaysia a cause for a Islamic hospital called Kase. So Kase Islamic Hospital, we are raising funds for them, and the funds are for machines, the medical devices, and also buildings. So we are seeing a lot of funds are being raised there. We are also raising funds for food stuff during Ramadan. We are raising funds for dry food stuff, meaning not cooked, but dry food stuff for so many people who are out of job. There are a lot of people who work are daily wage earners. So they are out of job, they have no income. So those families need funds and dry food for their survival. So we raise a lot of money for that specific cause. So if I compare before the COVID-19 and since the COVID-19 started, fundraising, I think, is on average is about the same, but specifically the COVID-19 related fundraising causes are attracting more funding versus the other. So there were so many other causes previously, like Rumah Yatim cause, there was education cause and all. They are standard. I don't see any spike happening there, but I see a lot of spike in or increased spike in raising funds for COVID-19 related. So that shows that people are adopting to new platform or new way of giving, because people want to give, but since there's social distancing, they don't know where to go and to give, right? Which agency to call. So we are promoting through social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Telegram. We are promoting the hyperlink for the causes. People are clicking on that and giving 20 ringgit, 50 ringgit. So that way the crowdfunding, the crowd is giving a lot. And secondly, of course, the corporates. Corporates are giving a lot. Hundreds of millions of ringgit is being given by corporate from the CSR budget. They're giving into causes for COVID-19. So I totally agree that there is a spike in funds that are being raised, but the spike is only specific to COVID-19. It's not overall.
Okay, so you mean that the people have a positive response to the platform that like Finterra, yes, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a similar question with my question before.
Yes.
From Ahmad Hussein. He is from Share Economic Forum. He asking about the response of the Waqf blockchain itself. How does the public response to the arrival of Waqf blockchain? Is there an obstacle? And how is the future prospect of Waqf blockchain?
Okay.
That's a question, sir.
Yeah, when you ask how is the public response to Waqf blockchain or blockchain? So blockchain is a technology, and it's a back-end technology. It's not like mobile app. So mobile app, right, and website is something that you can actually interact with. You download it, you interact it. But blockchain is something that is sitting in the server. So if today I ask you what is the public response to Microsoft database, I think most people even don't know what is a Microsoft database. So same thing, blockchain is a server, is a backend technology. It brings a lot of efficiency in the way processes are done in the platform, but users don't actually interact with it. Okay, so the users that only interact are people like IT administrators. But the response here should be, or what my response would be, is how easy does it make the user's life? So things or features like, say, crowdfunding. Now crowdfunding using blockchain becomes more credible, okay? More people want to give because there's credibility. Also, there is a lot of transparency. Now the causes are very transparent. You can see which agencies are actually publishing those causes. So a lot of transparency because of the blockchain. And identity management, people who are giving, they're going through a KYC process, AML process. So there's transparency, right? And because of the traceability, the trust is coming. So imagine you are giving crowdfunding, you are giving online into a Waqf or a Sadaqah cause, right? And for the first time, that platform is able to show you and to give you a report how much money has been contributed, how much money went to the NGO, and what was the benefit of it. So if you see the whole trail of the flow of funds and the benefit of the funds, you get more trust. And next time you want to give more. So the response actually based on the platform is enormous, right? So everybody wants to try out that, say, without blockchain or with blockchain, what is the difference? That's the first thing. And of course, in technology, always you look to move forward, right? Nobody is going to say, hey, I want to use Microsoft Windows 98, or I want to use old technology, right? There are always benefits on using new technology because it enhances your efficiency, it enhances your features, your capabilities. So blockchain is bringing a lot of new capabilities to your offering, to the offering of Waqf, Sadaqah, Zakat, right? In the offering, the edition offering is traceability, transparency, right? And of course, distributed, that the funds can be raised through crowdfunding and so many other mechanisms. So it brings a lot of new feature that our previous systems didn't have. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. I think this is the last question.
Okay.
From Eliza. She is from IPB University, Bogor. She asked about the situation that we have now. That, as you know, we should work from home, and she thinks that affect to economic paralysis.
Yes.
Because in other cases, several people cannot work from home because they have to work from their factory, or they have to trade in markets. So I think the point is what is the role of Waqf to make a solution to this problem? Because she thinks if the people don't work from home, the curve of the pandemic will not be go down.
Yes. See, I mean, let's reflect on what Islam says about such pandemics, right? Even during Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's time, whenever there was pandemic, it is very well documented that there was social distancing or there was distancing, right? People movement from town to town was limited. This has happened in the Islamic history many times. There was a lot of time cholera, or there was leprosy, and many other diseases that were contagious were spread, and the community knew what to do. So it is nothing new what is happening now. Okay, it's just that in the recent times, last 100+ year, we have not seen anything like this before. That's why in our times, in our parents' times, this is the first time that we are shocked to see such kind of contagious disease. But in the history, in 1400 years, this has happened many, many times. Okay, so Islam actually promotes that in times of contagious diseases, right, social distancing to be practiced, that not to go to the mosque, perform your salah at home, and avoid going to the marketplace, do business only one-on-one. So all of that is very well. Of course, the industry is affected because factories cannot work without the workers, right? Market cannot work without the traders. Transport and hospitality industry cannot work with the hostess and pilots and all of that. So definitely it is affected. But let's take it that we are Muslims, and we understand that this is a test, a exam given to us by Allah, and it is temporary. Our healthcare workers, our scientists are working to find a solution for this, and we are close, right? What the news is saying is we are close to finding a solution, inshallah, and everything will come back to normal, right? I mean, what that normal would be, we don't know, right? But yes, a lot of people are suffering today because they don't have job to go and do. Their salaries has been cut, or they have been laid off. That is all over the world that is happening. So the solution that Islamic social finance bring to us, right? And it is not something short-term solution that today we can implement and today we can benefit the reap. This is something we need to implement. And when in the future any such pandemic again comes, we will be prepared or better prepared, right? So Islamic social finance in history, in 1400 years, we have seen was the social security of the Islamic community. So in the olden days, if you read history, right, you read about the Turkish Empire and what happened in Istanbul, right, and in many other countries. When people go out of job or were having a sickness and not able to earn for themselves and their family, the Baitul Mal as a institution of social security took care of them, okay? There were different Waqfs that took care of them. If they go to the hospital, they don't need to pay because it is a Waqf hospital, right? If they go to the education institution, it was a Waqf education institution. They don't need to pay for it. So if we invest prudently into Sadaqah, Zakat, and Waqf, these institutions will create asset management, fund and asset management for the community, right? And these assets, if are used properly, the profits that they will generate in the future, if there is any other calamity, then those funds can be used to actually finance the disaster relief. So it is not a show solution that you implement today and you're going to get benefit. These things have been need to be implemented. Like, say, look at Zakat. Zakat was institutionalized and well implemented in the last 15-20 years. So in Malaysia, in Indonesia, other countries, look at how much of effort and money that the Zakat agencies are putting out to fight this pandemic, right? And taking care of the community. But because Waqf has always been just only real estate asset is not working during a pandemic because there's nobody to work it. If there's a farm, there's nobody doing farming. And then the produce of the farms are not coming to the city for sale. So the whole farm business, the agriculture business has come to a standstill. But imagine if we have a lot of cash Waqf, and this cash Waqf is deployed into Islamic investments all over the world into all different kind of industries. Those profits still can be, be generated, and those profits can be deployed into so many different causes. So definitely there is no short solution. Okay, we are seeing a point in history where we are kind of like on the fence. We are in the pivotal role, that we are for the first time understanding how serious these pandemics can be, and the solutions are not just going to be a single solution. They're going to be so many different solutions, and what many people are calling it is going to be a lifestyle change. We need to change our lifestyle, the way we give sadaqah, zakat, and waqf, that this is to take care of us and the community in the future. Also how we interact with the environment, okay, and also how we interact with each other, like social distancing, video conferences, and all that. So it is this lifestyle change is what's going to come after this pandemic. But I don't think you need to worry about, right? If you look at so many countries had a lot of cases and they have now started reducing. In Malaysia, there were a lot of cases. And for the last 1 week, 10 days, alhamdulillah, that the number of cases is declining on a daily basis. Number of deaths is declining, right? That this social distancing is getting things under control. And inshallah, the same thing will happen in Indonesia and other countries. But we just need to be prepared. What do we do as a lifestyle change and as our practice change after this pandemic, so that we'll be well prepared in the future? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. That was an amazing answer. But for a limited time, we should close this discussion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. It's a pleasure to speak to you, and thank you for the very well organized session.
Yes, thank you, sir. It's our pleasure to be your moderator today.
Thank you.
I hope you and your family, Allah protect you from this pandemic.
Ameen. So I wish all of you.
Thank you, sir.
I wish all of you Salamat Berbuka Puasa, and I hope Ramadan is going well for all of you. It's a very trying times, but Alhamdulillah, it is Ramadan for us to pray and to ask for forgiveness to come out of this pandemic.
Amin, 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 inshallah. Okay, thank you so much for your great presentation. This is an awesome experience for us to have a discussion with you. And because we don't have so many time, unfortunately, we have to close this discussion, sir. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Oke, baik rekan-rekan yang insya Allah dirahmati Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Setelah kita berdiskusi dengan Bapak Hamid Rashid selama kurang lebih 90 menit dan banyak sekali pertanyaan-pertanyaan luar biasa dari rekan-rekan sekalian. Namun mohon maaf jika memang tidak terbacakan atau tidak ditanyakan semua karena memang banyak keterbatasan waktu yang kami punya. Sebelum menutup, saya selaku moderator izinkan saya untuk membahas atau mengulas sedikit terkait apa yang kita bahas dari diskusi kita pada hari ini. Sangat menarik memang jika kita mengaitkan antara teknologi, instrumen filantropi, dan pandemi. Itu merupakan tiga hal yang sangat berbeda, di mana ada penyakit dan ada dua solusi. Dan dengan dua solusi tersebut, insya Allah, apa yang kita ikhtiarkan semoga bisa mendapatkan titik terang, karena memang di Indonesia sendiri sudah sangat banyak. Namun, ada hal yang sangat penting yang perlu kita catat, dan semoga semua apa yang disampaikan oleh Pak Hamid Rashid tadi dapat kita pahami dan dapat kita catat dengan baik, bahwa teknologi sekarang tidak mengenal jarak, bahkan semuanya telah terkoneksi dengan yang namanya blockchain tadi, di mana blockchain adalah sebuah support system untuk kehidupan kita. Dan ada kutipan menarik yang saya tangkap dari Pak Hamid Rashid. Beliau mengatakan disruption brings innovation. Itu jelas. Kita selaku umat manusia yang mana memang diberikan akal oleh Allah Subhanahu wa taala, memang sudah sebuah fitrah bagi manusia yang memang berlatar belakangi hidupnya dengan teknologi, maka untuk mendukung kehidupannya diperlukan inovasi agar tidak tertinggal dengan kemajuan zaman. Dan itulah diskusi SEF Talk pada siang hari ini, Kamis 30 April 2020. Semoga apa yang kita bicarakan dan apa yang kita dengarkan mendapatkan keberkahan dari Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Dan tentunya kita selaku kaum milenial yang memang hidup di tengah kemajuan teknologi, semoga ini dapat menginspirasi kita bahwa teknologi bukan untuk dihindari, namun teknologi untuk melengkapi hidup kita. Jadi jangan patah semangat untuk melakukan inovasi-inovasi terbaru, karena banyak masalah-masalah global yang memang harus kita selesaikan secara brilian. Baik, sekian pemaparan dari Pak Hamid Rashid dan saya selaku moderator mohon undur diri. Namun sebelum menutup, izinkan saya untuk memberikan informasi.